We are in Waco. Doug Maurice, Bill Landis, and RG3, Browns fans. That's Robert Griffin III, Heisman winner, here on Baylor's campus at McLean Stadium, where we are reliving the past a little bit. We remember in 2014, Ohio State got into the playoff at the end of the season at the expense of TCU and Baylor. And tomorrow in this stadium, the Baylor Bears on Saturday will try to exact revenge on those Ohio State Buckeyes. How big of a deal is it, Bill, for Baylor to try to get back at Ohio State on the field after losing to them in the minds of the committee?
Baylor plays Duke on Saturday. Here, but Duke.
Okay, then why are we here?
We got lost on our way to Arlington for Ohio State versus TCU.
Okay, so TCU and Baylor are not the same school, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. TCU will attempt to exact revenge on Ohio State for what happened in 2014 when TCU was number 3. Going into the final weekend, Ohio State was number 6. They both won by a lot. Ohio State wound up 4th, and TCU wound up 5th. Is that right?
No, TCU went from 3rd to 6th. Won by 52 points, went from 3rd to 6th. So Baylor finished 5th.
Well, congratulations to Baylor on that 5th place finish in 2014.
There'll be a plaque in there commemorating it somewhere. Yeah.
So there's a lot wrapped up here with Baylor and TCU and Ohio State. We came to Waco to eat tacos. But let's talk playoff right now. Ohio State number 4 in the country, TCU number 15. What would a win over TCU mean for Ohio State's playoff hopes? Is it a must-win in the 3rd week of the year? Or does Ohio State have the schedule where they could lose to TCU and still get in? And just like, how big of a deal is this? We know Ohio State lost its big non-conference game last year to Oklahoma and did not get in the playoff.
Yeah, I think it's probably more of a must-win for TCU than it is for Ohio State. For TCU, it legitimizes you a little bit. I mean, there's a lesson from 2014. Ohio State didn't have a marquee non-conference win in that game. Its biggest non-conference game, it lost to Virginia Tech, and that's why we all thought they weren't going to make the playoff. So the Big Ten, I think, is still good enough for Ohio State to get in, even if they lose to TCU. You still got to go play at Penn State. You can play at Michigan State. You play Michigan. You'll probably play Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship. So that's 4 ranked wins that would certainly help your resume. And I don't think you necessarily need to beat TCU, but you want to. Like, it would matter. I think you want that marker on your resume. I think you want to show the committee that you are capable of going outside of your league and beating the best teams from the other leagues. And TCU is probably the 2nd best team in the Big 12. So it's not, you don't have to have it. Ohio State's playoff chances aren't shot if they lose on Saturday night. But it's nice to have in your pocket in case, like, the Big Ten is not as good as we think it is, or if Ohio State just stumbles somewhere along the road to a team that's not in the playoff race.
The thing that has changed in this playoff era that's different than the BCS era is that you're not trying to go undefeated. 1-loss teams get in. So it has taken a little bit of the air out of some of these games because you're not playing 12 must-win games the whole season, which actually is good, which I think is good. It encourages you to play these games because you're not dead if you lose. So if you look, 2014, Ohio State loses the big non-conference game to Virginia Tech, gets in. 2015 beats Virginia Tech, doesn't get in the playoff. 2016 beats Oklahoma, gets in. 2017 loses to Oklahoma, doesn't get in. So there's no trend there at all. What this would, if you beat TCU, if you're Ohio State, you leave yourself wiggle room. You leave yourself wiggle room to lose to Penn State if you beat TCU. You leave yourself wiggle room to trip up somehow at Purdue or lose a good game to Michigan State or Michigan. If you lose to TCU, not in this stadium, in a stadium 10 times this size, if you lose to TCU, your wiggle room's gone because you don't have to be undefeated, but as we saw last year, it's tough to get in with 2 losses. So that's what's at stake for Ohio State.
Yeah, I just don't think you're going to get in with 2. But I also think, like, the committee has, like, treated Ohio State kind of strangely, I think, the last few years, and there's not supposed to be precedent and nothing's supposed to carry over. But I also don't think it would be bad for Ohio State to remind the committee, like, we're Ohio State, and we just went and beat TCU, and if you beat them soundly, you do that.
Lovely campus here at Baylor. Lovely stadium. From the home of Robert Griffin III and Corey Coleman, he's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Maurice. We will see you Saturday. We'll go to the right stadium. Saturday night in Arlington, AT&T Stadium where the Cowboys play. That's where Ohio State will play TCU for real, and we'll be there. Thanks for watching on cleveland.com.